From powerless to powerful. Hey, my dear, I am Leadership Development Coach Kathy Archer, and welcome to today's Facebook Live session. I know, and I've said this before, but the truth is most of us spend most of our days running around chasing fires, solving everybody else's problems, and we never get to that important, meaningful work that we want to do. The reason we got this job in the first place, the reason we're in this field. I give you the inner and outer tools to turn that around so you can move from survival to thriving in both leadership and life. If you are joining me for today's live session, or if you are watching the replay, just pop in below and say hello. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear me loud and clear. And, you know, if you find today's session valuable while you're listening to it, after you're listening to it, please share it. There are many women leaders out there who need this information and who are struggling just like you. And together we will get through this, and together we will make a difference in the lives of those we work with, those around us, and in ourselves. So, today's session, powerless to powerful. If you've been following me for the last few weeks, we've kind of gone on this little bit of a journey where we started talking about feeling stuck and feeling frustrated and not so happy perhaps with your day-to-day life. Maybe not quite sure what to do with that. And as we've talked, what I've shared with you is that it all boils down to our thoughts. When we're stuck, when we're frustrated, when we're unhappy, when we're not quite settled, it's typically our thoughts that are getting in the way of that. And by shifting those thoughts, by changing how we're thinking and that perspective we're in, the lens that we're seeing our challenges through, that's how we start to change things. However, when we start to change things, that gets a little bit tough because what we want to do is change what's going on outside of us, and we feel like we're powerless to change things. So today we're going to talk more about that. But give me a second. I am going to share this into my Confident Women Leaders group. So if you're not in that group, I'll put a link in after I'm done today's session. The Confident Women Leaders group is a private group where it's just a bunch of women who are either in leadership positions or aspiring to be in leadership positions, and they want to work together to grow their confidence so they can make their difference. So I'm just going to share this into the group for half a second. Give me 2 seconds. And away we go. I'm back. All right. So many of us are feeling powerless. We're feeling like we are not able to change things. We're feeling like we are stuck in a situation, in a relationship, in a job, and we don't feel like we can change it or control it. When we feel powerless, we're feeling weak, and what we often do is we finger point or we blame somebody else, or we wait for the situation to change or the circumstances to change. It's all his fault. If only she would stop doing that. I can't change things. It's just the way it is in this field or this sector. It's the economy. I wouldn't be in this situation if it weren't for my debt. We can blame and finger point to a ton of different places. But what we often do is we feel like it's out there. It's not something that I can control. And when we get to that place where we're feeling like we're finger pointing or blaming, or we're doing that on a constant basis, we feel that victim mentality. We literally feel beaten down. We feel abused by the situation, by the circumstances, by the people in our lives. We feel like we are vulnerable to everything that's happening. When we get in that place, we start to give away our power. We give away the way we're feeling. We give away our thoughts. We give away our actions. And this is what it looks like. It's all his fault that I feel crappy. If she wouldn't be like that, I wouldn't feel like this. If I didn't have such a crazy workload, I wouldn't feel so overwhelmed. I lost it because of the situation at work. And we give away our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors out there. We make it somebody else's responsibility. We blame it. We give it away. We don't take responsibility for it. And when we start to try and change things when we start to recognize, you know, the way I'm feeling isn't so great. The experiences I'm having aren't going so well. What we tend to do is, again, try and change other people. If only she would do this. And we try and push ourselves and force ourselves on other people. We try and change them and force them to change and mold them to how we want them to be. We try and take our ideas and our ways and we try and put them onto our team, our environment, our relationships. And the truth is, we can't control what's going on out there. We can't force other people to say things, do things, act in certain ways. We can't take our ideas and push them on to people or places or groups. What we can control is what's going on inside of us. And so what we need to do is we need to sort of shut off out there for a minute, not completely, and I'm not saying we don't have the ability to influence or impact what's going on out there, but we have to start in here. So we have to shut off all of that outside stimulus and feedback and all that stuff that's going on, quiet it down, and tune into what's going on inside of us. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What am I believing? What's important to me? And we have to start to then take that and take back control of that. What do I want to feel? What do I want to experience? And from there, we need to start planning the experience of our days, planning what we want. And that takes time. This isn't something that happens overnight. I mean, I've been preaching and teaching this for weeks now. This takes time and effort. You're not going to change your perspective, that lens or that filter that you see your day-to-day life through, your relationships through, your job through, your boss through, until you slow down and do some of this inner work, until you stop and start to reflect and you start to decide and you start to get really conscious about what do you want? What's the experience you want to have? And you have to sit down and create that plan. Last week, and again, this week there'll be another one, but if you go to silverrivercoaching.com/slides, there was silverrivercoaching.com/guides. There was a blog and an article and a download that you can get on the 5 mistakes that women often make when they're trying to plan their life. And so I don't want you to get caught up in that. I want you to slow down and plan more mindfully, more consciously. I want you to reach out and ask for help. I want you to sit down and look at what is it that I want to do. Because there's 2 mistaken beliefs that we often have. The first one is, let me make sure I've got these 2 right for you because I want to share them with you. The first mistaken belief that women often have is I must have control over others or the situation, or I must have power over others or the situation. And the truth is, we cannot control anything outside of us. What we can control is what goes on inside of us. And so that mistaken belief that we often have is, in order for me to feel happy, secure, peaceful, content, on top of things, joy, whatever it is that you're looking for, the mistaken belief is that in order to feel that way, I got to have my finger on everything going on outside me, control everything, know what's going on, make sure everybody's doing what I want them to do. That doesn't work. Actually, in order to do that, you have to find that inner control, that inner power. You have to tune into who you are, what your strengths are, what your gifts and talents are, what your values are, what hill you'll die on. You have to know those things. When you find clarity on those things and you're very clear on how they show up in your life, how you want them to show up in your life, that gives you that inner sense of power. And so that gives you the ability to then use that inner power to then influence other people and impact other people, not control them, but influence or impact them. That when you start to act a different way, model different things, be in different relationship with people, that they then choose to act differently, behave differently, communicate differently. But it starts with you changing what's going on inside of you. So that first mistaken belief is that I have to have control over other people or power over the situation in order to feel happy, content, secure, successful. The second mistaken belief that we often have is that my experience of life is a result of what's going on outside of me. So The one example I used in the blog post today is, if it's raining and we're going on a picnic, then it's the rain's fault, it's environment's fault, it's Mother Nature's fault that I'm going to have a crappy day. That's not true. You can have fun in the rain. You can have a wonderful time in the rain. That comes back to you changing your perspective, the lens through which you're seeing the rain, your thoughts, your expectations, the stuff that you have control of that goes on inside of you. So that mistaken belief that your experience of life is a result of what's going on outside of you, when you shift that mistaken belief, my experience of life is a result of what's going on inside of me. What do I believe about the rain? What do I believe I can make happen with the people around me despite the rain? That's where you bring back your power. That's where you start to feel more in control of the situation. So take that into a work environment. Yeah, the meeting might be a crappy meeting. It might be a difficult meeting. It might be that there are people sitting around the boardroom that maybe you don't particularly like, or you don't like their style. But when you can change what's going on inside of you and perhaps reconnect to why it's important that you get past that frustration, get past how you see those people, because you connect to that bigger picture of what you're developing, why you're in this organization, why you're doing this work at this time, what's important about it for the clients, the bigger difference you want to make in the organization, in your community, in the world. When you can connect to that, even when you're sitting there and that person across the table is driving you nuts, when you can sit there and connect to that, you start to change your experience. And what you then can do when you start to change that experience is sometimes you get new insights where you'll start to realize, you know what? We're both saying the same thing. We're just saying it in different ways, and we have different ways or different ideas of how to approach it or to achieve it. But we both want the same outcome. And that helps you come to more of an alignment and come back into that conversation in a different way. But if you continue to focus on them, their actions, how they're driving you nuts, how they're driving you bonkers, how they're saying things that are making you angry, how they're wrecking things, you're giving your power away. And if you want to take your power back, then you start to come inside and you start to get clear on what are my thoughts, what are my feelings, how is it that I want to behave, what are the things that are important to me, and you connect to that, and that's when you start to take your power back, change how you're influencing the situation and having a bigger impact. So today's guide sheet is about taking your power back. And so it's kind of a neat one, because what I did in it was I connected it to one of the videos that are in the free course that go along with my book. So my book is Mastering Confidence, Discover Your Leadership Potential by Awakening Your Inner Guidance System. I know it's a long title, but you can find it on Amazon. You can find a link on my Facebook or my webpage as well if you go to my silverrivercoaching.com website. But when you buy the book, inside the book, there's a complete free course that walks you through exercise after exercise after exercise to apply the concepts to mastering your confidence, both in leadership and in life. And with each lesson, there's a video. So I've embedded the video into this worksheet from one of the lessons, so you get to kind of get a sneak peek at what's happening in the free course. And it also walks you through where you give your power away. And I think that sometimes we don't recognize it until we start to see it in different ways. So this guide, this worksheet is going to help you to start thinking differently about where you actually give your power away. And so, I was at a meeting the other night, and the first thing somebody said was, this rain can go anytime. I think we've had enough of it. And, I was doing a speech on some of this kind of stuff. And one of the things I said was, when we change that perspective, instead of seeing the rain as a pain in the butt, as an inconvenience, and we start to see how is it helpful. For me, I appreciate the rain because we've had years where we've had so many forest fires that we haven't even been able to go camping with a fire, which is one of the things that's extremely important to me in the summertime. And so for me, I can shift that and go, I'm grateful for the rain because now we don't have to deal with forest fires. Yes, it's an inconvenience. Yes, it's mucky. Yes, I have to vacuum daily because the entrance gets muddy. But there's another side to it. And both are true. And I can still be, slightly annoyed that it continues to rain day after day after day. But I can also, at the same time, hold appreciation and gratitude for that. The same is true when I'm sitting at a meeting and there's somebody that's saying something that seems to be slowing the meeting down. And I am a stickler for sticking on time. And so I can get irritated and annoyed that, oh my goodness, we're going to run late and I don't think that's what we need to do. And this conversation is, dragging on. At the same time, I can look at that individual and say, you know what she's saying right now is very important to her and she holds very deeply, and what she's talking about is something that she wants everybody else to hang on to and grab onto. And it's an idea that I value as well. I just don't appreciate the way she's doing it because she's dragging the meeting out. But at the same time, I can hold both of those in my hand and I can see both sides. And what it does is it changes my experience and I feel more powerful because I've taken the experience of that meeting and that environment back inside of me, and I've shifted how I'm seeing it, the lens or the filter that I'm seeing it through, thus shifting the experience of it. I'm still slightly annoyed, but I'm also grateful. And again, when I can hold both of those, it changes that experience for me. And over time, I can do different things maybe to impact that. I might have conversations about how important it is we stay on time. I might let go of my rigidity about staying on time because I see that it's, a little bit too rigid. And I just start to examine things and start to see things differently. And that starts with tuning in to what's going on inside of me. So make sure that you pop on over to silverrivercoaching.com/guides. You start to look at where you give your power away so that you can start to take it back. It starts with recognizing what's going on, recognizing where you're finger pointing and blaming and you're waiting for somebody else or for the situation to change. When you're saying things like, the economy's crappy and that's why my finances are bad, or you're saying things like, I can't eat healthy because nobody else eats healthy around me, or you're saying, my experience of my day is a result of the overwhelm in my workplace. If everybody didn't interrupt me all the time, I would get more done. Well, that's where you're giving your power away. So that's what I want you to start looking for. Simply noticing, where do I give my power away? Because that's the starting point for you to start recognizing where you can take your power back. So again, I'm Leadership Development Coach Kathy Archer. And if this has been helpful for you, please share this. Share this in your Facebook page, share it on YouTube, whatever you want to do, share it in Twitter, so that other women like us can start to take their power back, start to feel more confident in their leadership roles, can start to balance work and life more effortlessly so that they feel better about their days. Because we don't have to do this alone. We shouldn't have to do this alone. We are all experiencing similar kinds of things. So make sure that you're inviting other women to these Facebook Live sessions, to the Facebook page, sharing it so that other women know too how to start to feel more confident, how to start changing their experience of life. And remember, head on over to silverrivercoaching.com/guides. Get your guide today that is about taking your power back, recognizing where you give your power away. And I will see you next week for another Facebook Live session. Thanks, ladies. Bye-bye.